Welcome back, our dear viewers. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli chaired on Thursday the 8th meeting of the Supreme Committee tasked with preparing for the 27th edition of the Conference of the Parties COP27 to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Egypt's presidency of the 27th session of the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on the Climate Change has launched the official logo of the upcoming session of the conference, which will be held next November in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. To shed more light on that, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Abdel Fattah Badr Mohammed, Secretary of the Environmental Research Council at the Academy of Scientific Research and Technology. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you very much for being our guest today, Dr. Abdel Fattah. Doctor, what is the significance of hosting the upcoming COP27 summit in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh?
The significance of the last meeting of the committee headed by the Prime Minister is to review the processes and the preparations for the conference. And of course, as we know, the conference is managed by two ministers, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Environment. In the coming weeks and months and weeks, preparations are important for the final agenda of the conference, and not only for the experts and negotiators, because the experts will tell many people the importance, and they will take scientific point of view of the climate change, the importance to lower the impact of climate change, either by mitigation or adaptation. And the other part of the conference is to negotiation among different countries for cooperation, and of course join the projects to adapt to the climate change and to minimize its impact on life on Earth, and also in different sectors of the economy, like health, like tourism, like agriculture. Every sector of life is impacted by the climate change.
Indeed.
Another important aspect is to make logistics, to discuss the logistics. What logistics will be taken? The number of flights coming to Egypt will increase, of course. So we need to arrange with different air companies to increase their flights to Egypt, not only to Sharm el-Sheikh, but also to Cairo as well. This is important. The hotels, how to receive the people coming to participate in the conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, and to welcome them and take them to other parts of Egypt as tourists as well. There will be some journeys to Luxor, to Cairo, to other touristic places for visitors as well.
Yes, indeed. So what are the most important recommendations here expected to be discussed during the summit to decrease the climate change effects on the whole world?
Yeah, I think the most important is to join the project first for the rich people who are causing the climate change by increasing emissions, industrialized countries, to pay for repair of the climate change. Then there was some negotiations how much these repairing, how much the adaptation or mitigation to the climate change will cost, and the industrialized countries should pay for the repair. The other thing is to discuss with every region of the world what is needed for, of course, different regions may have different projects. In Egypt, we need projects for clean energy. We need projects for sea rising, how to adapt to the north coast of Egypt to the rising sea level and the salinity that would be increased by the rising of the sea level. So our agriculture will be affected. So we need to adapt to the new conditions. We also need some clean energy for solar energy. Of course, we are now leaders in solar energy in Africa. We need to expand this more in the future. And wind energy as well, we can explore wind energy. We also need some cooperation with our neighbors, either in the Mediterranean region or in the south with Africa. So we need also to coordinate our position with the African countries and with the Middle East countries as well.
Indeed. Sir, how would the upcoming session of the UN Conference on the Climate Change to produce tangible results in terms of developing financial instruments and mechanisms for the climate change, particularly with regard to climate adaptation efforts and the Green Climate Fund, the GCF?
Yeah, I know that the Green Climate Fund has made some agreements with Egypt for some projects of adaptation. And we need to follow up these agreements and to actually execute the agreements. It's easy to sign papers and make good agreements, but the most important is to actually execute these agreements. The partners should contribute what they have agreed on. If we have made agreement that we do some projects, the funding should be actually paid on time, so that the project will be realized in reality on the ground.
Yeah.
I think the 4 projects that we agreed with the Green Climate Fund are important, and they were well negotiated by the Egyptian government, but we need to follow up the talks and the details of the agreements and the timing of executing these agreements on the ground.
Sir, President Abdel Fattah Sisi hoped that the conference would contribute to enhancing the climate action in developing countries and lifting many of the burdens off their shoulders. What's your take on that?
I agree 100%. This is should be. This is a very correct statement. We need to ask the others who actually caused climate change or causing climate change to pay for the burden of the climate change and help the developing countries like the Middle East and Africa to adapt with minimum of impacts on climate change. Yeah. So the conference, as the President said, will actually should leave the burden from the shoulders of the developing countries and actually ask the industrialized country who are causing the climate change to pay to fund the repair of the climate change and to fund the projects in Egypt and other countries as well.
Sir, how can the coming conference bridge actually the gap here in the climate finance in the developing countries between what is needed to fulfill their commitments and what is actually available?
We hope that what is available would be sufficient for what is needed because we need green energy. This will need projects. And the project with fund will need cooperation from the developing countries. Of course, developing countries will not pay very easy. We need to do some politics with them and to be also successful and serious in our action for climate change adaptation. So if we also do projects, we should do our duties and do our projects on time. So to be serious in combating climate change impacts. And I think we are doing very well. By the way, Egypt is among the leading countries in climate change. Egypt was one of the first countries who contributed to the environment in the world by our Dr. Mustafa Tolba, with the Assistant General Secretary of the United Nations for 20 years. and he was actually very successful at the global level and contributed a lot to the environment not only in Egypt but in many countries as well. And if we rank the countries, Egypt will be among the top countries with conservation of nature and taking care of the environmental affairs. So we are very advanced on this level.
Yes, indeed, a very important conference which will be taking place here in Egypt. Dr. Abdel Fattah Badr Mohammed, Secretary of the Environmental Research Council at the Academy of Scientific Research and Technology. Thank you very much for being our guest for today, and indeed a very important input that you have highlighted on the agenda of the summit, which will be taking place here in the Red Sea Resort of Sharm el-Sheikh next November. Our dear viewers, with that we come to the end of this edition of The Breakfast Show, brought to you live here from our studios on Malta International by my dear colleague Dina Hussein and myself, Maisti Rabia. We are both signing off until tomorrow with another quiz. Goodbye. Many thanks for watching.